Hi, everybody. For my digital story, I chose to further examine my early literacy journey and share that with you to give the rest of my Weebly page a little bit more context. I know with the Zaption module, we looked into early childhood brain development and what early literacy can mean for that and why that's important. So I'll give it a little bit more context by going into a little bit of my story in a bit more of a documentary style. This is where my journey in learning begins. This is a photograph of my grandfather and I. When I see this photo, I'm definitely reminded of the difficult times that we faced as kids, my sister and I, and brother. We were living in my grandparents' home with my mother as well, who was going to school and working full time. And I think what that taught me, and what my grandparents definitely let me know, was that determination and perseverance really teaches you a lot about yourself. And it was absolutely worthwhile what my mother was doing, even if she couldn't spend time with us, because they valued her education, which let us know to value ours as well, even from that early age. I like to consider this slide an act two of my journey in my early learning. This is a photo of my brother and I, and yes, much like my grandfather and I, we look nothing alike, but our family nonetheless. I'm a big believer in learning through play, and with my brother, I was able to do that where his G.I. Joes and Legos met my Barbie dolls and Polly Pockets. We were able to be imaginative with each other and create other worlds where we could play with each other and learn from that, both in and outside of the house. So I think that is a very significant part to my early childhood learning as well. The third portion to my story involves me and the beginning of my life at the library. So I went to Tempe Public Library quite frequently as a child with my grandparents, my brother, and most frequently with my mother as she was a student and used the space very frequently for studying. And I studied alongside her. In compiling photographs for this assignment, actually, I was very surprised to find this one. I didn't know any photographs of me in the library at this age existed, but nonetheless, I was very happy to find it because that frog and toad mural meant so much to me growing up. And sometimes now, when I work in the children's library, as I now work in this library, I also remember having this mural up in my childhood, and I'm kind of sad that it's gone. So I mentioned that I visited the library quite often growing up as a child, and that I now work in the same library that I was a visitor of. And I just want to get back to that point for a moment because this library did have a tremendous impact on my future career. So I began volunteer work at about ages 11 to 12 at this library, and an interesting story about that is that I actually lied about my age so I could be able to volunteer because I was too young to volunteer at the time but was so eager to help. Then, when I became old enough to hold a part time job at the library, I applied to be a page. And with the paging job I had, I was responsible for shelving materials as well as helping patrons find library materials on the shelves, which was always a lot of fun for me as well. After my paging job at the Tempe Public Library, I applied to be an assistant at the library and received that promotion. And with the assistant duties, I was able to help patrons make library cards and work with some collections as well. After that, I applied to be a full-time assistant and received that promotion as well. And with that, I was able to have my own desk space, be a benefited employee, and also work with interlibrary loan materials, which is always very interesting to see what type of rare materials our patrons request and the requests that we're able to fulfill for them as well. So, in thinking about my journey in early literacy and how that has shaped my career choice, and how the presence of the library has shaped my career choice, well, what does that mean for the future? This brings me to the next portion of my digital story. Here I am pictured with my niece, Gracie, on Easter. Now, while I don't intend to have any children of my own, I do intend to become a children's librarian because I appreciate and recognize the impact that the children's library had on me. Lastly, I just wanted to make a small point of the fact that I was raised with a strong work ethic and learning, and that was because my grandparents put that strong work ethic in me by viewing their importance in early literacy. I'd like to remind parents and educators that adults truly hold the key to unlock the door of learning and literacy for students and children. Thank you for letting me share a bit about myself with you. I hope this video has got you thinking about your own personal journey in education and literacy. Thank you.